Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the snaps and everything you gave us. I'm Brady Madden. I'm the founder and CEO of Evergreen Digital. We're a search engine optimization company focusing solely on the cannabis space. I'm excited to guide our discussion here as we talk about personal branding. I know that's a big thing, a big question. It seems like the topic has come up a ton this weekend. I've had as we've had different conversations. So excited to introduce our panel here. So if we can just quick go down the line and just have everybody just quick introduce themselves, who they are, where they're from, and yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I hate when they leave one seat just to the left of the moderator, and I have no time to prepare myself. No, I'll get over it. I'm a middle child. My name is Mitchell Ozak. I hail from Toronto, Canada. It's a pleasure to be here, and particularly with this esteemed panel of thought leaders in cannabis. A little bit of my background: I started in the legal industry in 2016 in Canada. As a consultant, I've worked with over 220 cannabis clients in Canada, the United States, and around the world. Mostly on strategy, some capital markets work, and high-level operations. I speak at a lot of these panels. I write quite a bit online, which I guess is what we're going to talk about a little bit later. But I think this is a really important and powerful question that we're here to talk about today, particularly with these amazing people, because we still need to develop a wellspring of a mobilization, so to speak, for cannabis and legalization. And these folks here are doing their best job doing that. So I'm very happy to hear what they have to say and to learn from them. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Super excited to be here. My name is Luna Stour. I'm the head of impact for iSpire. We do vaporizer technology for the cannabis, hemp, and nicotine industries. We went public on the NASDAQ, first cannabis vape technology company last year. ISPR, check us out. No offense to the Canadians, but the real stock exchange. And I've been a patient and an activist for my whole life. 1996 was when we passed 215. I was 11 years old. I've been smoking it, growing it, and selling it since middle school, high school, put myself through college. I went to UC Santa Cruz, studied criminal justice, worked in prisons and jails, San Quentin and public schools, got my credential and master's in teaching. So really spent a lot of time in education, so it made perfect sense to blend my background in cannabis that's very homegrown. We never saw it as a drug. I have fibromyalgia and a bunch of other, unique diseases. Shout out to the Ashkenazi Jews out there. I feel your pain. There's weird things that we get. They're not easy. And cannabis really helps that. So for me, lobbying, I always wear, my cause on my heart, decriminalize now, deschedule now. We need to move that forward, and then we can all, make money and be happy. But really, my message is that love can be lucrative, and that's what I spread around the world. I've been to 40-something countries speaking about cannabis and trying to share what we learned in California, the ups and the downs and the pitfalls with all of them. So I'm based in the Bay Area, but I work out of LA. You see me all over the world. I'm always available to folks. Reach out if you guys ever need some love. I got you.
Awesome. Hi, y'all. My name is Caitlin Domain. I am the content marketing manager at FlowHub. I am based in St. Louis, so not very far. I'm so excited to be here with everyone else. Like I said, I'm the content marketing manager at FlowHub. Before FlowHub, I was actually at Benzinga for a little bit, and I have done everything from freelancing to journalism in cannabis, so very much writing based. My very first job was with Deb, right there in the back. She trained me up. So yeah, it's been great. I've been here for about 6 years, and I really developed my career on LinkedIn. I mean, that's where I get my jobs. That's where I get people reaching out to work with me. And unlike my esteemed panel, I do not have a college degree. So I use my personal brand to get me in rooms that I otherwise wouldn't be in. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Brandon Bobart, and I'm the founder of Pisco Peaks Ventures. We help build fractional marketing teams for cannabis operators, and we've been in the space since 2018. We've had the privilege of working in most licensed markets. We've worked with dozens of operators, ancillary businesses. We work both on the licensed cannabis side, the hemp side. Like Luna, I grew up cultivating cannabis, trapping cannabis. It paid for a lot of what I did growing up, and actually was an educator before that. So we're learning about each other up here. And just really excited to share about my journey and personal branding and how you can kind of marry that with what you're doing in your corporate goals. Like Caitlin, LinkedIn's been a powerful driver for me. I get recognized in rooms that I've never been in before and with people that I've never interacted with. And for me, that's a really powerful way to connect at scale when there's so many different things going on and ads and media. And how do you build something that defines you? So excited to share a little bit about my journey and some tips and tricks and, kind of learn from the panel as well. So.
Who was here yesterday when Javier Hasse said tips and trips? Did anyone? I think it was your panel, actually. Or did he do yours, Deb? No. Yesterday, I thought that was, I don't know if it was like a translation thing, because he's like not, English isn't his first language, but I really like that. Because tips and tricks is kind of redundant, right? It's like tips and the trips. Like, what were the do's and the don'ts? I don't know. I thought that was cute. Shout out, Javier.
I mean, if we have tips and trips today, I think everybody would be open for that, right?
I'm down for some trips. I'll
I
say
have
that.
.25s if anyone needs any.
Everybody's in for that. Love it. Well, let's kick things off, and we can kind of jump around. We don't just have to go right down the line. But really, if we look at personal brands and really how you can drive business results from cultivating a personal brand, what are, what have your guys' experience been? Like, what has maybe been a story that you can tell or that you could share with the audience, that something that you've done for your personal brand, whether it be on LinkedIn or whatever the platform is, that has actually driven business results for you? And this can be for anybody.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll jump in. So for me, part of the reason that I got my job at FlowHub is because of my audience. One of FlowHub's goals is brand awareness right now. While it's not measurable just yet, it will be soon. And I use I have to balance it, right? Because I don't want my personal audience to become a FlowHub ad, right? So I have to balance my personal. People love when I share my personal stuff. They love hearing about my kids and how I tie that into work. So long story short, the brand growth isn't always measurable, but it also does lead to measurable results, right? So like some of the sales team will be like, hey, like I saw Caitlin's post. I'm interested in setting up a demo. And so it can translate like that. I think that the big takeaway is brand awareness. The more and it doesn't even have to be the quantity of people, right? But like the more like people from your company are showing up, even just one person, it's that repetition is going to build, and then you're top of mind.
Yeah, and I think cannabis more so than most industries is, you want to work with people you know and you trust. And there's this ability through LinkedIn or whatever channel you are, LinkedIn's the one I focus on, to get yourself known in a way that goes beyond the company and what you stand for and what you mean. And I think if you think about a brand has core values and a mission and a vision, and I think you can kind of transfer some of that over to you and really help people understand through text posts, through video posts, what matters to you, what you stand for. And I think at the end of the day, people want to align with that. And so that does a lot of the discovery and filtering for you. We get 6-figure contracts from LinkedIn where it'll be a cold inbound lead. They'll have a call and they already know things about you. And so not only from an efficiency standpoint, but just like sorting and finding your tribe, right? So I find that's really powerful a tool and kind of result for it.
And I'm going to jump back in really quick because I think that it's a little bit different for Brandon. I mean, he's the founder of his company, but like for me, for example, I'm an IC at FlowHub. So I'm really working with our founder and CEO right now and encouraging him, like, you need to be the face. I'm happy to do it, but if I leave, then you take that brand awareness with you. So another like measurable impact and like big business growth through personal branding, your founder and CEO really should be leading the charge there, in my opinion.
Amen. That's a really good point. I say that all the time. It's heavy's the head that wears the LinkedIn crowd. Same thing like with both Jetty Extracts. I was employee number 1 with them, employee number 1 with iSpire. Both times I was headhunted based on like, hey, who knows cannabis and who's legit. And for me, this was before LinkedIn. I mean, maybe I had like in my teaching world, I had my teacher LinkedIn, but it was not built to the 25,000 or whatever it is now. It was really being in person, like doing a lot of inpatient demos when I was at Jetty, going to Spanibus, traveling the world, educating, being a mentor to other women in this space. I think that you can only show up so much online. action, and you can only be a thought leader so much in theory and in abstract. I think that me showing up, like I got this at Lobby Day in DC with the Last Prisoner Project when we were out there advocating for the end of the drug war. Like people know me and I have legitimacy because I actually show up. I'm not just sitting behind a keyboard. So all these things are really true, but they have to have something behind it. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about authenticity later, which I think is really important with a personal brand. Is you don't want to feel like you're extracting value or just pulling from the bank without depositing back into it karmically. You know, with Jetty Extracts, when I went in, I didn't talk about the fact that we were a few dollars more than Gold Drop or Bloom or whatever it was at the time in 2014-15 in California. We were one of the first, cartridge brands. They didn't really, they just wanted to save a little money. But when I talked about, shout out, if anyone knows the One For You, One For Cancer shelter project by Jetty Extracts, we had 400 patients at any given time doing custom formulations for them at a time when no one was really doing that. We had to, and then they ended up moving for SB 34, which put compassion back into 64 once we legalized, which is really just commercializing. So a lot of these things is like, why would someone want to work with another Chinese vape hardware manufacturer? That in and of itself is not a motivating story. They want to know that there's people there that care about the plant, that care about decriminalization, that are consistently reminding folks about the drug war and that people are locked up for this, that is, overtly trying to bring reparations to communities of color through whether flexible terms or really unique sponsorship opportunities. M for MM, all the homies, we got Roz in the room. Like we she knows, like it's not just Luna's on LinkedIn. Like we work together, like we're doing this work together, and that's what really shows up. I just want to mention that too, is like people are sick of the posturing and the virtue signaling, so it has to be real.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of great points there. And I think the biggest one you made is really about authenticity. Like that's something that I know when I'm posting on LinkedIn that I've either struggled with figuring out ways to balance professionalism along with authenticity, but be able to show people who I really am and those sorts of things. So I guess that's a question. Mitchell, we'll kick it off with you. How do you balance professionalism and, being authentic and being who you actually are online?
One of my biggest fears when I post online is that it becomes about me. None of you care about me. I mean, if we were really honest, and to Caitlin, my undergraduate degree was in nuclear warfighting strategy, so that keeps me out of companies. Okay, so you're ahead of me. But with me, it's all about what I write. That sounds real old school and counterintuitive. But I don't want to share anything about my personal life because, frankly, I don't think any of you really care that I cry at operas and I like cats and so on and so forth. I mean, I sometimes don't care about it. For me, the emphasis is on what I write, and that's what I put all my passion and blood, sweat, and tears into. So when I try and promote those words, which are, in essence, to try and elevate the level of professionalism and strategic thinking and so on in the industry, I want the focus on that. And if people are focusing on that and engaging with that, then inevitably that's going to be better for me. So if any of you ever follow me, you'll know that I try and keep things sensible, mature, fact-based, and so on. And I avoid a lot of the very fundamental issues that you've heard here today because there are plenty of better speakers and branders that talk about that stuff. I try and occupy a different niche, be authentic to that, keep the focus on the words and the implications of those words, and deflect away from me. Because frankly, if you guys are thinking about me and commenting about me, you're doing a disservice to yourself and your industry. Because really, it's about raising all of us through better thinking, better execution, and better programs, and that's all what I'm about. So I don't know if that's authenticity and so on, but the focus is on what really matters to me.
Unlike Mitchell, I am not sensible or mature, so I don't take that approach. No, I do, but I do like I love having fun. I love humor. I love sharing about my personal life. But here's the caveat, right? I only share like 2% of my life. But when you keep seeing that same 2%, it makes you feel like you know the person, and that's my goal. So I'm not sharing every inside thought, and I'm not saying Mitchell's way is wrong. I mean, everyone has their own comfortability, but you don't know my kids' names, but I'll bring up my kids in my posts or whatever. But I mean, I really lean on humor. I mean, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you know that. I love joking with people. I told people before Benzinga, I said I have 3 disclaimers. Yes, I'm blonde. Yes, I have 3 kids. And no, my husband, who's also in this industry, is not here. So get those out of the way, and then you can come hang out with me. But But again, authenticity doesn't necessarily mean showing every single part of yourself. You don't have to do that. You just amplify the parts that you want people to see. And it's still authentic, and people meet me and they're like, "Oh, you're just like you are online," and that's intentional. You know, I want my voice to be heard. I want to have a particular brand voice. I want to use exclamation points. I want to start my sentences with "and," like there's a specific way. I mean, all I do is write. I rarely share photos. I rarely share videos. My skill is writing. And so I use my writing as the foundation. So again, authenticity does not mean all of yourself online.
Yeah, and I mean, as someone who actually ghostwrites and we do things for executives from time to time, we get this question a lot. It's like, well, I don't want to overshare, or I don't want to tell too much about my personal life, and that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's an avatar that lives online. Like it's not really you, right? And so you're curating a version of you, and you do have that ability to define what that is and what that isn't. And I think there's a beauty in that. I mean, we really get the opportunity to share the parts of us that we're proud of, that we're comfortable sharing. Some people, like Caitlin, want to share their family. Some people, they would never discuss their family, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be one or the other. But at the end of the day, how do you tie it back to business goals? And I think the larger the organization, I think the more muddy that gets, because large organizations have more stakeholders. They've got public eyes looking at them. For me, I have none of that. There's a reason I have none of that. That's how I roll. But I think you gotta, as you get larger or farther along that line, it's, really tying that back and being careful about what you say and making sure it doesn't conflict with your company values. As I know, some companies are more keen to allow that freedom of expression, and then others not so much. So.
And I think that's a really good point Brandon mentioned. Tying that back to business is critical, but we've all seen, I mean, there's a whole subreddit called LinkedIn Lunatics, and I check it weekly, and I'm like, am I here? I'm not, but I think that people, I mean, you've all seen it, the jokes. It's like, I went through a divorce. Here's what it taught me about B2B sales. Like, come on. Give me a break. So it's important to really make sure that it ties in. And like when I'm talking about my kids, I mean, maybe it's a more personal post or whatever, but like I really make sure it ties in, and that it doesn't have to be like a whole lesson, but like, I don't know, share your goals and share what's happening, and you can put a personal spin on it, right? Like, and by a personal spin, maybe it's like, okay, here's how I was like personally feeling as a founder during these early days of raising. Like, here are the things that I was dealing with, and other founders see that and they're like, wow, I'm dealing with that right now. That's an example of personal tie-in. So. Yeah.
Something else I'll say, and I have to say it just because Sam's in the room, one of the people that joined iSpire was following me on LinkedIn. She actually just told me this last night. She's like, I didn't want to weird you out early on, but I'm a big fan. And it's not the first time, Sam. Like, really, I was talking to Zach yesterday, our controller, like multiple people have applied to the company because of me or Adam or Jeff. It really, companies, even though legally maybe they try to be people, they are not people. They need us. We are the lifeblood of this industry. They obviously keep it running and are pay the bills and are the products that we're pushing, but we work for the people in the plant, and it always has to be people centric every single time. And so I think that that's really important too, is like how you're representing it makes people excited to want to be. And actually, Brian brought this up to me yesterday. Like, what a great passive lead gen for talent when people are intrinsically gravitating towards you and you have a centrifugal force around you. Well, how do you quantify that in business? Wanting to be part of a crew. Like, people are around the iSpire crew and they literally would just follow us around, and I'd be like, what are you guys doing? Like, Graham was doing it till like 3 a.m. last night. Like, where are we going next? Piano bar. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a really rare thing. You can't buy that, and you can't find that many places. And honestly, to zoom out, most other industries, especially even yesterday, we have a photo of all the vape manufacturer competitors all together hanging out. Like, name another industry where we're that, by scale, this level. We're the Boeings. Really. And we're collaborating and genuinely getting to know each other, looking at baby pictures, connecting over cats. Like, these things are lasting. And when shit hits the fan, which it always inevitably does in cannabis, when we're in hardware, you think stuff doesn't go wrong with the logistics sending it across the world with little electronics. Like, everyone's had a problem with a vape hardware. Raise your hand if you've had drama with vapes. It's annoying. It annoys all of us, right? And it's like, but guess what? We always say we're it's all shades of the lesser of, we're less bad than the next ones. It's kind of, we're all trying to, using vape safer to get better. But this concept is when things hit the fan and the relationship is strained within real business ways, the relationships have gotten us through. There's trust, there's transparency, there's knowing that there's intent and impact, and that we are trying and that we're going to work through it and be good for, be good on our word and reimburse for any costs. That kind of a thing for the nervous system of a founder or someone who's putting money into something is huge when you're trusting a major manufacturer and dealing with supply chain and Chinese New Year. These are huge life-changing and business-changing relationships that I've seen completely change the course of our businesses. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the main threads that, as I was listening to everybody kind of give their answers on that, was just tying things back to business results and having some kind of a business metric or something that they're looking at. So that's my next question for you guys: is what type of metrics do you use to tie back your personal branding efforts? Like, how do you measure your ROI when it's not always a direct, oh yeah, I posted this and then someone clicked here and then they made this, they filled out my form or something like that. So when you don't have necessarily direct metrics like that, what metrics do you look at, or what sort of ways do you try to measure ROI in your personal branding efforts?
That's a great question because, at the end of the day, for me, I like to write, I like to read, and it's a passion, but I also like to eat. And I look at the return on investment of all my time I take writing, and writing well is hard. It was Voltaire or Mark Twain who said, I think, if I would have had more time, I would have written less. So in LinkedIn, when you're limited to 3,000 characters, you got to roll up your sleeves. So I might be a little different from these rock stars here. I couldn't care less how many people read my articles. I couldn't care less how many likes I get. I couldn't care less if you hate me and you hate my jacket. What I care about online, it's a nice jacket though.
No, it's a nice jacket.
Not as good as yesterday's. Yesterday's was good. There are about 100 people in our industry that I'm aware of that occasionally or regularly DM me after every one of my posts. So I post usually twice a week on LinkedIn, and I care a lot about how many of those people reply. And those people, and I'm going to sound like a douche, and that's okay because I'm going to own it for this next 30 seconds, but those people are CEOs and CFOs of large MSOs and LPs that you would know. Some of them are the CEOs of large Canadian wholesalers and so on. They're big shots. They'll never publicly comment on LinkedIn on anything I wrote. They'll never give a thumbs up. They couldn't care less. But those are my clients, and I care a lot about those 50 to 100 people. So my ROI is how many of those do I get, and how many of those interactions translate into a client relationship that hopefully is a long time. So if any of you have ever read my stuff, it's pretty dry, sensible. No one's ever called me mature or sensible, but at the end of the day, that's what that audience wants. And I target specifically them, and I follow them. And that's a long-term relationship-based engagement online. So it might be a little different for these folks, but for me, very narrow, very targeted, and very long-term focused.
So I have spent time working with creators. My previous company, we were a creator-led media company. So our media brands were literally ran by creators, ran by people. And I had a cannabis brand for a while and paused. But something that we call out are signals. So they're not metrics, but they're signals. So like Mitchell's DMs, those are signals that your content is working. Likes and comments, they're also signals. Shares, they're signals. If you hear people talking about it, if it comes back to you that, hey, this was like a conversation happening, it was included in an email, those are signals, and you can't always quantify them, but they are telling you that it's working.
Yeah, I always say likes don't pay the bills, right? And so definitely likes are like a signal, but for me as a consultant, it's the number of DMs I receive, the sales cycles length. I don't want to spend 60 days trying to close a mid 5-figure deal. So if I can get on a call and quickly close a deal, to me that demonstrates the ROI. It saves me time on the discovery process, the sales process. Recognized in events like these, right? Being asked to speak, and to me that's an ROI from the work. And then, I really just look at, like you said, the positive sentiments. Are people sharing the content? Are they writing thoughtful things on it? Or are they just writing like great posts? Like, I want to really resonate. I think haters are good. I think when you get people that don't like what you write, you're saying something that matters. Because at the end of the day, we all have a unique perspective on things, and just saying things that everyone agrees with, I don't think like that's what the Gary V's and those folks of the LinkedIn world do. They just write platitudes that everyone's like, that's amazing. But are they really starting a new conversation? And I think that's the challenge. Like, how do you say something that's in some way like not divisive, but has enough edge to it that gets someone to feel something, right? At the end of the day, that's what brand is. It's creating a feeling. It's creating a feeling.
And I'm jumping in because I just want to call out, like, Brandon, for example. His goal for posting on LinkedIn, at least mine currently, is different than mine right now, right? So my personal brand leaning into is to raise brand awareness for FlowHub. Brandon's trying to get clients. So his signals are those closed contracts. And the content is a little bit different, right? So since I'm trying to get brand awareness for FlowHub, I'm going to talk about FlowHub's so great. Like, here's what we're doing. Brandon's probably going to lean into, here's how I get results for my clients. And that's going to be like the basis of a lot of his content. And that's what founders do as well. I mean, it's great if people reach out to me and say, hey, like, I want to join a demo, and they've done it before, but that's not the main goal of my content. I want people to learn about FlowHub and then keep seeing FlowHub because of me. But there's different ways to post that can get you those results that you want.
Yeah, and we tell people like you should have a content mix. Like anytime a contract comes through, they always mention like a specific like playbook post or a how-to post, but those get the least amount of views and impressions typically. So how do you get the top of funnel stuff? And the top of funnel stuff, unfortunately, is the personal stuff and the selfies and like, but that brings more people in the funnel, and then the right people see the content that's more strategic and practical, and then that gets them to reach out. So it's having a diverse mix of those things.
Yeah.
My ROI perspective, I think, from a impact perspective, is very long game. To Mitchell's point, we're not going to see a lot of the ROI on this. I mean, we're out here in these streets trying to talk to senators and get laws passed and deschedule. Like, a lot of what we want to see is not going to have a visible ROI for a really long time. And we are at Benzinga, and we are in a capitalist-driven society where we need immediate gratification, and we need to see dollar signs come in, especially if you're publicly traded and you have a board that's looking at bottom lines. And it's our responsibility to communicate the triple bottom line of people and to rewrite these metrics, that not everything's going to have a super obvious, like, maybe they're more subtle signals. Like, it doesn't make sense for us to necessarily be in Spain every year or to work with some of these organizations. We're a very high level, capital B to capital B. You might not even know who iSpire is, but you've probably had our hardware in your hand. We work with Cookies, Snoop Dogg, Burna Boy. Like, we're starting with Wiz Khalifa. Like, we're working with some of the biggest brands in the space and some of the biggest MSOs in the space. And that, that didn't just happen through a LinkedIn lead for us. It happens through word of mouth at these shows, through meeting Adam, through meeting me, through seeing. So it's a co-creation. We're co-creating our legitimacy with each other. We don't have a third-party ombudsman. We don't have a Better Businesses Bureau or a Yelp where we get to talk about how people act, if they're good actors, if they're bad actors. We check in with our friends, and we're like, what's up with this person? And I think it's got its benefits and its downsides. It's our kind of accountability buddy circle. But I think that it's really our responsibility to remind the people that are so focused on profit and revenue that it's really, it's people over profit, reputation over revenue every time, because it does come back around. When you see a lack of turnover, people who want to stay at your company, how are you quantifying that? With like the give back elements, like a lot of times I'm really grateful that my leadership understands the benefit of going around and educating in markets like Thailand that we have no business being in. They're not necessarily, there's vape bans in many of these countries that I'm visiting. I'm going to be in Chile on Sunday. They're not fully legal yet. Colombia's online. They're not ready for us at all. Spain, I've been going out there for 7-8 years. They're nowhere near ready for us by 10 years. But it's still so important that we are present, that we're top of mind when they do want to go into vapes. They think of us. That when they are worried about how to move forward, they already have a trusted relationship. These are extremely. I mean, the joke is we've been saying 3 to 5 years for the last 7 to 10 years. Like, we just keep saying it, and it keeps pushing off. So maybe as an industry, we should start vetting vetting for risk and understanding be realistic and see that, we have to believe in the magic and the mysticism of this plant, or you shouldn't be in this space. If you don't understand that we're building something so much bigger than us and it's not going to be crystallized into a really quantifiable thing, you probably aren't meant to be here, because this is not CPG. This is not just another alcohol or tobacco. This is plant medicine. It is a sentient being. It is sentient within us. We are literally, co-creating it together, this plant and us. So I just feel like that's, something I call for all of us to do, is to really start questioning the systems of what's valuable and what's important, because what we've seen in this space is when people come at you and you're getting called out and you have haters, if you've done good work in this space, the community comes to bat and has your back, for sure. If you've had some weird patterns and you haven't shown up, they're going to throw gas on that fire, because we love to watch a dumpster fire in this industry. We will tear someone down when they deserve it. A culture for toxic predators, and then there's call-in culture for confused or ignorant people that just need a little bit of guidance. And that's what we've seen, is that by calling in people, we can actually compost the empire. We don't have to burn it down.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about platforms, because that's a big one. I know we've talked about LinkedIn a little bit, and it seems like a lot of people here. Like actually think I've met all of you on LinkedIn before I actually met you in real life, and many people even sitting here today. So can you talk a little bit about what platforms are you on? How do you look at platforms? Do you differentiate between platforms, or are you just all in on one?
So for me, LinkedIn is my bread and butter. I mean, that is where I am. Like, that is where I get my cannabis clients. That is where I get my jobs. That is my primary platform. It's also good because LinkedIn's regulations or terms are a little bit looser than, say, Instagram or Facebook. So we've kind of found almost like a refuge in LinkedIn, being able to share that, and being business minded, and me being B2B. I really don't do B2C at all. It really helps. So that being said, there are other platforms. I know Twitter, X, I guess. I'll never call it X. The artist formerly known as Twitter. Twitter is a good platform for a lot of people. My biggest caution to anyone is to vet platforms. There are constantly new stuff coming up, right? Like, there's Threads and there's Clubhouse, like whatever else is, like, do I remember Clubhouse? You had to get like an invitation. It was like a whole thing. But so you don't just like jump and be like, oh, everyone's here, I have to post content here. Go where your audience is. My audience is on LinkedIn. Dispensary audience, probably on Instagram. I mean, you have to go where your audience is and utilize those platforms. I'm going to say this again, a disclaimer. Do not rely on these platforms, guys. Try to get them on an email list. Try to get them in another way. You don't own your social media. If it goes down, you lose all of those followers. So use platforms and get on your own, and when you can, is my advice.
Just quick jumping in on that. I completely agree with that, because you don't own the platforms. The platforms can change the algorithm at any given day. I mean, the platforms are already pay to play and they're not letting us pay. So, it's like there's a lot of challenges with that. So definitely email list and your website. Like, you own your website. You can drive people to your website. You have control of it. Certainly there's algorithm changes and things like that can happen with Google, but spend more time on what you own than the other platforms. Like, those should just be ancillary ones that are driving traffic and people to what you own.
Yeah, and I don't have a mic, but no, you're fine. I was just gonna say that's a good point. We're not saying don't use social. Use social to drive them elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all a distribution channel, right? I mean, LinkedIn, podcasts, media companies, like the blessing of cannabis, it's not this massive industry yet. So, I mean, you got to reverse engineer like where your audience is, right? There's very active Reddit communities, there's very, very well-known influential podcasts. I mean, I did one podcast a few weeks ago and bing, 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 like it lights up. So I think you got to reverse engineer your goal and then choose the strategy and tactics and channels that make the most sense. But at the end of the day, I think less is more, right? You don't need to be all over in all places. You don't need to have a post go up on 17 places all at once. I just don't think that's a good use of time.
Can I quickly say, I mean, everything these folks said, I completely concur with, but the point I'm going to drive is, in retail, we call it omni-channel marketing, which is the notion of being consistent across all different platforms and channels. I think that's extremely important if you want to be a thought leader or a personal brand. I hate those words, again, douchey, but at the end of the day, like Caitlin said and Luna, these people talk the talk and walk the walk. So there's nothing worse than being what I'll call an empty calorie online person, all flash, and then when you meet somebody in live, they're just a vapid loser. And there are lots of people like that online. None of these. Maybe me, but inevitably you're going to meet somebody, you're going to sell to them, you're going to deliver a product to them, you're going to talk. And if you aren't what you think you are or what you're purported to be online, it's going to kill your authenticity, it's going to kill your credibility, and so on. So you have to be consistent across your platforms as well as physically, and show up every single day and be that true person, true to your purpose. Because if you're not, people are going to find you, and then that's the end of it. And everybody has got a niche. All of these people are very different, even though they share a lot of similarities. But if you aren't what you purport to be in any commercial transaction, you're toast. And people will call you out for that.
Yeah, alignment is huge. Obviously, love LinkedIn. Been loving LinkedIn for a minute. The only post that got me banned was when I hit the Grav Labs Manong, the menorah bong, the eight bowl. That was but what was I thinking? Post that to LinkedIn. Come on.
Worth it.
We made it up.
That's
Shout
worth
out
the
Grav
ban.
Labs. We love. It was like hash too. Obviously, the bots just scan it. Or like I was in Mexico, took a photo of a CBD shop. Was in Tokyo, took a photo of a CBD shop and said like they sell cool things here. And like the mix of like the word "sell" and the leaf banned it. But shout out to Alexa at X, formerly Twitter, for making it a safe space. I just have never gotten into that platform. I don't know if it's because I'm an exennial. I'm 40. It's just I just never. I don't know. It never worked for me. But Meta. I mean, I love. If you have followed me on Facebook or Instagram, I was a middle school teacher when that came out. I was like in UC Santa Cruz when Facebook first came out, so I was in the first guinea pig group for that, and then I did it again with Instagram because I was doing middle school and high school when all the kids were using it way before any of us even knew about it. So I've been on these platforms for 20 plus, Facebook for 20 plus years and Instagram for almost about the same. Came several years after, maybe 5 years after. So I love them obviously, but I'm a radical. Like I don't like to police my bodily autonomy. I don't like to not smoke. Like even my dad's like, stop smoking in your post, and I'm like, Dad, I'm a cannabis influencer. But like it's really it's for me, my favorite platforms are what you don't see. It's in these rooms, it's the relationships that I'm making, it's the WhatsApp groups that we're sharing ideas with each other and supporting each other. It's the Facebook group of like 400 executive women that are like, we talk about bad actors, we share information with each other and resources with each other. Like there's a lot of things you guys aren't seeing, a lot of platforms that have built my credibility and who I am that you will never see unless you're getting a screenshot from a trusted person or something. Like I try to keep a lot of my influencing very personal and like connect with human beings on a personal level, because everyone is sick of social media, everyone's sick of the two-dimensional posturing, and it's very difficult in this space to differentiate. So Ben Larson's a great example. He was at Meadowlands in Mendocino last week with us, and he's here, and like we have people that are actually showing up. He has young kids, he's been an entrepreneur how many years in this space? You've been grinding at least 10 plus, almost 10 in the space since Gateway, that when we met in Oakland. Like these are people that have sacrificed everything for this plant. So get in a room, talk to them, drop in with them. Like it's this this manufactured persona that we're talking about. People are really starting to see through that, and so it's like, give people a reason to invest in you because you invest in them. It has to be a two-way street. You can't just be like, look at me, I'm such a smarty pants. It's like, what are you actually doing to get other people and share your power, get them up to where you're at, not just like there's times where I get invited to panels and I put other folks, usually veterans, trans folks of color. Like I want to put other people, like what you see me speaking at is 25% of what I'm either invited to or applied to or whatever. I try to put other people in that and usually pay for their travel and stuff like that too. We've had a lot of situations where like that to me is not going to get broadcast. You're not going to see me post about it. You're not going to see that in any press release. But if you talk to the right ones, they're like, yeah, like Luna hooked that up and she knows that I have an important voice and wants it to be heard instead of hers. So part of also being an influencer and being a thought leader is highlighting other people other than yourself and sharing your platform, because like we get sick of hearing ourselves talk. So if you're inspired, if you want to, get involved and you want to get your voice out there, please do the same, because these platforms are going to change, but what's not is your reputation.
Absolutely. Want to try to squeeze a couple more questions in here. So let's do this one a little bit more rapid fire. One of the biggest things, at least that I see when it's creating content for a personal brand, is just sheerly the amount of time that it takes. Because it's like you can write a post and you can sit there and have it ready to go, but then you're like, I need to tweak this, I need to tweak that, and then next thing you know, something that you were going to throw up in a quick 20 minutes becomes a quick 2 hours. So how much time are you guys spending creating content? Do you use any sort of AI tools? Do you use anything to help you speed this up? Do you schedule it ahead of time? What kind of tips can you share with us on those?
I would just say the more you do it, the better you get. So just keep doing it. And my motto is, and a lot of creators' motto is, publish over perfect. Just publish it. Do not overthink it. Like just keep doing it. So don't spend hours on one post. I mean, if it's your first one, fine. But yeah, that's my thing. Just keep doing it, and it'll get better.
Yeah, I do everyone with 2 thumbs in the morning. I don't schedule them. I don't think about them too much. I post it, move on. Try to keep it light. So 20, 30 minutes.
There's usually a typo that I notice after I publish too. But LinkedIn has an edit feature, so.
It messes with the algorithm. That's the only reason I would say no to
I do it quick though. I do it quick. You can.
it. It tanks the algorithm. You're better off deleting
But
it and reposting it.
but if you do it in enough time, if no one's seen it, I usually doesn't bother me that bad. But
It's even worse on Instagram.
I spend hours. This is not a joke, actually. Everything else I said was a joke. I spend hours
I believe it.
because quality takes time, constant editing. And this reminds me of that Kelly Pantene commercial when she used to say, "Don't hate me because I'm beautiful." So don't hate me because I spend a lot of time doing this. My brand is about accuracy. It's about my wife.
His wife has a thought on that.
That also takes many hours. But again, back to what I'm trying to do and what my brand is. It's about accuracy. It's about getting it right. If it's not accurate for me, I'm going to hear about it from my 50 to 100 people. So
and your wife.
my wife's a gynecologist. She hasn't read anything that I've ever written in 25 years. But as a joking aside, that's why I don't mention my personal life, because I once mentioned my wife's a gynecologist, and I got about 50 DMs on, would she be willing to try this cannabis suppository for endometriosis? I tried it, and it worked. They worked great, but joking aside, but that's why. Yeah, you did. But anyway, I like to put the time in. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm judged on how I write. And if we want to talk about why you get work, a lot of people will give me work because they think I'm a very good writer. And compared to Oscar Wilde and Marcel Proust, I'm a horrible writer. But I think it does halo on the quality of your thinking, the quality of your relationships, and so on. So I'm a big believer in putting in the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I've put posts up in 20 minutes and I've put posts up in 2 hours. So it definitely takes a lot of time. I would say that my thought starting this year out is that I was spending more time posting daily and trying to post at the right time to follow the algorithm and everything. But I would say this last half of the year, my attitude has been, fuck the algorithm. I don't have time to try to deal with what the algorithm is, what it says or whatever. Like, I'm just going to post when I can post and get it up, and it's going to be good enough. And that's been working for me just as well. So just sharing some thoughts on that. But as we wrap up here, I'd love to just see if we could go down the line and just get one, like, what is your absolute best tip for everybody in the room today? If you were going to go back and restart building your personal brand, what's one tip that you would give that they should start with?
Wait, before you start, can I just say something to what you just said?
Yeah, please
My
do.
version of fuck the algorithm is scheduling posts. So there's a middle ground.
Yes.
You know how you can be annoyed with it, and then you just do your like Sunday nights or whatever. I just schedule it for the next week.
Agreed.
And on the east, I'm on the West Coast, and I schedule them for 5 a.m. because the people on the East Coast wake up and see it, and the people that are up early on the West Coast. So and it changes all the time. So use AI and be like, what are the newest LinkedIn tips around the algorithm, and then you can just like schedule them all out and not have to deal with it, because it is kind of annoying to be a slave to the algo. It's the worst.
Okay, so just tips, things you should take away. Just start. If you really want to do this, just start. Just get started. I mean, there's really no playbook that tells you how to start. There's a lot of people who feel the pressure to do it, and I don't recommend it. If it's something you really want to do, then just do it, get started, and don't stop. Like Nike, just do it.
Yeah, I'd just say be social. I mean, it's social media. There's people you want to talk to, send them a DM, comment on their stuff. I mean, that brings them in your feed, right? So just be social, show up, don't post and ghost, and just, have fun with it.
One thing I will say that I think is underrated is can we please stop saying picking brains to people? Like, just stop saying it. No one wants their brain picked. What do you think of when you think about a brain being picked?
Lobotomy.
I just sent
A
them my
lobotomy.
500.
I think of a crow pecking into my like. See, think about what picking a brain. Is it a good feeling? Do you want your brain picked? So like, also just be aware that like when you're interacting with people in their personal brands, like I'm not necessarily accessible. Like my mom just like had a rabies scare. She's been like in and out of the hospital. I haven't been like I've been home maybe 5 days out of the last 4 months. Like I have stuff going on. I have my own endocrine disorder. Like I look like everything's going great, but like just because I'm Luna and super available and super warm and super like, and this isn't just me, just a lot of people, when we're in the limelight, people just feel very entitled to our energies and very entitled to that space. And it's like, be respectful of the fact that we are operating at a really high level. We are trying with a 20-minute post and turning it into 2 hours and missing dinner with my partner. And there's a lot of people in our lives that are not getting our attention because the people in the industry want our attention. And I just want to be respectful of that. Like, yeah, I don't have kids and I don't have a husband, but I have 4 dogs, a 12-year relationship, a house that I live in that needs loving. Like Ben, we talked about this. Like it's real. So getting a million texts or DMs, on a weekend, or getting a bunch of information that's not relevant to me or my business, or asking questions that you can Google. Like 80% of the people reaching out to me and trying to connect with me have not done any research on me, have not done any research on the topic they're asking me about, and have not checked in with where I'm at and what capacity I have for that. So I don't know how relevant that is. About we're talking about like personal and professional. I just think that like we're so interested in networking, we're so excited about each other. When you see a shiny thing, you want to jump on the bandwagon, but like some things are just meant to be experienced and interacted with in like the right ways. Not everything needs to be extracted from or like objectified. And I feel like as influencers in this space, we get that a lot of the times. Like we owe the industry something. It's like we're doing a ton of free consulting and emotional labor that's already a gift. Like stop asking for more, or do it in a way that feels like picking my brain, like, or taking me to a drink or taking me to coffee doesn't benefit me. Ask, what are you working on that I can help with? And as we're working together, then we can have that conversation. When you're side by side, if you want to come to DC and walk around the halls, like I was telling Nikisa, we're going out to DC and we're getting the whole crew. We had 250 people from the cannabis industry cruising around DC together. Those are better times to have a conversation than the strip club at MJ BizCon. Like start having meaningful interchanges with people and like, let's get this work done, because it's not a game.
That's when I send them the calendar link with the $1,000 credit card fee that they can pay for 15 minutes, and that usually quiets a lot of that.
Oh my God.
I like it.
Love this.
Great tip.
They don't
Way to get
usually
that
respond. I have had 2 people pay it though, so.
Everybody get that tip?
30 minutes for it.
How to make a quick grand on LinkedIn. That's Brandon's new course.
Love it.
Two quick things. One is before you do a panel, learn how to turn your phone off so your wife doesn't call 4 times. Number one. Number 2 is a lesson my grandmother imparted on me, and she said, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. So shut the fuck up. Follow other people, see what they're doing, see who's credible, and then you'll find your voice and your purpose, and then you'll be able to participate. So I'm a big believer in like measure twice, cut once. I didn't dive in and just start spouting everything I read in the Harvard Business Review. I looked for a gap in the market. I made sure that it was aligned with my personal values and my corporate strategy of my consulting practice, and I dove in there. And I welcome more people coming and doing it because it raises a broader conversation. But I didn't just jump in and become part of the noise. I wanted to be the signal. So always look for this signal in the market online and deliver that and exceed everyone's expectations around that.
Love it. That's great.
Bobby knows, absolutely.
Well, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys sharing all your tips and trips with us. Is that what we were going to call it? Yeah, tips and trips. So thanks.
Great folks here.
Thanks everybody for seeing us.
Thank you guys.